Jeffrey, thank you so much for joining us, all of my listeners and myself. I have listened to your, I don't want to call them speeches, but podcasts and talks, and I resonate with so much that you say, and I feel it deep in my soul. And we scheduled this podcast a bit ago, and I wanted to cancel today because something came up in my life. I had to schedule to put my dog down today,
Oh,
and
yeah.
so I couldn't get myself together.
Yeah.
Jeffrey, like I literally could not get myself together today. And I knew that we had this time, and I know you're in Japan, and I realized that this is just life, and this is also energy, and I'm going to bring that up in part of what I want to talk to you about, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, that sounds great. Yeah, real life examples.
Real
And what's
life
happening right
examples.
now is that's what it's all about, right? So
Right. It's
perfect.
real life. I know I had one call before you. I feel sorry for those people on that conference call because they were talking about just work things. Like on a normal Tuesday would have been fine, but today I'm like, no, didn't. I just was pissed, for lack of a better word. But
Yeah.
thank you for joining me today.
Yeah, my pleasure. My pleasure.
So you are an energy healer, correct? Is that
Yeah,
how
yeah,
you would?
yeah, it's funny because try to define things in words is hard sometimes.
I know.
So what I do is you know, with my background and training experience, I'm able to see or sense or hear or feel energy. And then if I'm working in the capacity of helping bring things into alignment and making the energy flow smoother or more gracefully, then we can call that healing. So, but it's a little bit different than what people might think of when people hear energy healing. Sometimes they think, this is a cure. This is like a magic trick that can cure me of whatever problem I'm having, whether it's, I can instantly make my business work or can make my pain go away or, things like this. So the so energy healer is correct, but I think it's also easily misunderstood. It's kind of a loaded
And
word.
by the way, I'm one of those
Yeah.
people that would say that I thought it was a cure. So there was an energy healer that was famous and he's amazing. And I was going through a really hard time and I had him come here at the house and work on me. And I thought when he left, like I was going to feel different. And I realized that that's not the way it works. So can you explain to me
Uh-huh.
how what you do works? And for people who have never really
Uh-huh.
dove into any of this sort of Reiki work, I want to
Yeah.
talk to you about that first and just the fundamentals, and then also how it works from afar. Because I know that there are energy healers that can do energy work when they're not next to you. And how does that work? Because that I don't understand myself.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. We could definitely talk about that because I spent about 10 years, a little more than 10 years, working full time as an energy healer and an intuitive reader. And I did both in-person sessions. So people would come in and I would do hands-on healing where they laid on the table and I would channel energy and basically let the healing energy flow through me while I kind of narrated and told them what I'm seeing. Like, here's what the energy looks like in your body. Here's where it's coming from or kind of the history involved. Sometimes we'd get into really far away things like looking at past lives, and it could really go anywhere. When you start looking at energy, all the information is available. And so that was really fun. That kind of work is a great way to learn about energy. So if you're a practitioner and you're in like kind of immersed in other people's lives and stories and kind of all the excitement and drama that comes up as a normal part of life, and watching that energy play out, especially over a course of time, it really, really helps. It gave me a much deeper insight into how things work and also into what's helpful to tell people. Sometimes it's not always helpful to tell people exactly what I'm seeing.
Why?
Yeah. And well, it's
Why do you think that is?
because sometimes what I'm seeing, like 'cause when I look, I see several different layers of information. And this is one thing when I teach intuition classes, I teach people this, that a lot of people want to simplify the information that comes in into like right or not right. So like, oh, is this like accurate, or is this correct, or is this true? And when you do that, you're missing, basically missing out on the nuance. So it's kind of the wrong question to ask. Because if I'm seeing something or feeling something, whether I'm intuitive or not, then it's true in some context, right? But it can be true for like let's say if I'm looking at your energy, right? So I could look at your energy and I could see that here's the experience that's happening for you, that you're having. And so that's one level. So things can be true for your experience. I might also see, oh, you have some beliefs about how the world works and who you are, and our beliefs include our trauma and our pain too, right?
Right.
And so I can see like, oh, okay, so those things are true in your beliefs. Even if they're not true in your experience, they're filtering your experience. But I can also see that, oh, I also have my own beliefs and my own experiences. And so that context, it could be true in those contexts too. And so if I'm helping you, if you've called and asked for my help on something, and I just tell you what's true for my beliefs and my experiences, that may not help you, right?
It's so funny that you say that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
earlier today, I started this podcast telling you what's happening with my dog, but a friend of mine who meant really well gave me her opinion on how I should deal with this with my daughter. And she meant well, but that's her opinion. And I think that you're right in saying that, like, when you, even if as a healer, you're coming from a place of where you've been as a human.
Yeah.
Am I right?
Yeah, exactly. And it's the important thing is to just communicate what the context is, and then it can be received, right? So if your friend had said, I don't, here's what I believe about the situation, or I had an experience like that, and here's what I did. I don't know if it applies to you, but maybe sharing my experience will help you in some way. So that's very different than saying, I don't know your friend, but what happened exactly. But if somebody, it's very common for us to go, I got it. Here's what you should do.
Right.
You should do this, and this would be better because A, B, C, and I read a book about that and heard a speaker talk about it, and so.
Right.
And there's all this supposed evidence to back up what our beliefs are, but we overvalue the usefulness of our own information for other people.
Yes.
We all do this, and we also overvalue other people's information and how relevant it is to us. And this kind of fundamental confusion is what gets us in all kinds of trouble, and what's why we get our feelings hurt. Like you said,
right.
your friend intended well and was trying to help you and coming from love, but it wasn't. You couldn't receive it that way.
Yeah.
And that it did. It was like, okay, that feels like just unsolicited advice, and I'm trying to tune into what works for me. I'm trying to get in touch with myself right now. So other people's information's, even if it's good, in this moment, it's noise.
Yes.
And I just need help turning down all that other people's information and tuning into my information. And then I'm going to start to get clarity like, oh, okay. Now I know what I need to do. Because I don't need to know what everybody else would do. That's actually not helpful in any way.
Wait, so let's talk about that.
I just need to know what I want to know.
I would love to talk about that because I feel like I spent my whole 20s and 30s listening to what everybody else thought I should do with my life. And now that I'm in my 40s, I realize that it's always been inside of me. And it takes maturity to understand that. And there are a lot of people listening now that they're not in their 40s now. And I don't want them to have to go through all of the pain that I did. So talk to me about the energy within you and how can you tap into that knowledge and that intuition when you sometimes feel lost?
Yeah, sure. That's a good question. And I would say that one thing too, that people that are younger than us, like I'm in my 50s, but people that were born later have a little advantage. So every generation or every decade, people are being born at a little bit higher vibration. They're getting to use all the knowledge and wisdom that's kind of built up collectively from everybody else. And so, like, we're able to move faster than our parents were able to, but our children can move faster than us. So that, like my daughter, if she listened to the things that worry me or kind of like I'm confused about, would probably think, that's silly, Dad. Like why? Like I would never be worried about that stuff, right?
Right.
So, and the same thing. If I listen to my parents, I'd probably be the same. Like that's kind of like they seem a little stuck to me, and, but it's every generation is like that. So
Yeah.
so automatically things are improving, which is nice. But yeah, to your direct question, like so about how do you
Tapping into
tune
your
into
intuition.
to your intuition and information is good for you. So the first thing is to just have the understanding that, like you said, it kind of comes with the context of life usually, but this understanding that all the information that's outside isn't necessarily helpful or for me. So what I want to do is kind of say, if the information that's like that I'm sort of attaching value to, am I doing that because I'm feeling a little insecure or like I don't know enough to make my own decisions? And so I want somebody that's like the expert to tell me because that seems like it's going to be helpful. So, and that's natural. There's nothing wrong with that. But if I'm coming from that position, I'm gonna be a little bit over receptive, right?
Yeah.
Or I also might say, the reason I feel like I want to listen to that person is they're saying things that are already inside me, but maybe
Hmm.
they're articulating it in a way that I hadn't thought to or that I'm unable to myself. So they're helping, uh, like what's inside me become more clear, rather than adding some other things into the mix.
But how do you know
And
the difference?
well, to know the difference, you just have to understand that there is a difference,
Yeah.
and then right away you'll start noticing, right?
Yeah.
But most people don't really understand the nature of advice and intuition. Intuition actually works. This will help a little bit. Intuition is not what most people think it is. So most people are kind of most of us are in our mind most of the time, kind of our analyzer, right? And so when we get some intuition, we think that it's a question, right? So
Okay.
I'm leaving the house. My intuition, I'll just use a silly example. My intuition says, grab that umbrella. And so rather than just accepting that that was guidance and I grab the umbrella and go out the door without thinking, I'll say, oh, my intuition just asked me a question. Do I need an umbrella today? Okay, let me think about that. Oh, I'll just check my app. Oh, it says right now, the weather report says I don't need it. I look outside, I don't think I need it. Great, I don't need it. Then, 2 o'clock, a storm rolls in. I'm walking around getting wet, right?
Right.
And it's like, why didn't I listen? Because you thought it was a question. Like intuition isn't a question. You don't have to like validate it or look it up. You just want to start to experiment with following it. So the things that are coming in that don't make sense to you, that you didn't think about, those things are called intuition. There's a good chance that's it. Especially, my deepest insights over the years, my deepest intuition have always been things that surprised me and sometimes didn't even make sense to me or
Yes.
felt wrong to me. It felt like
Yes.
that's just scary. Like I can't do that. That doesn't make any sense, right?
Doesn't I'll tell
But
you a
I
story.
but I want to. So that's a good clue. It's like, that's probably intuition because if it made sense, you could have made it up. If it doesn't make sense, probably didn't make it up.
There was a story that I tell it all, like my closest friends know it's about a breakup, but it was something that was called to me. I don't, without sounding so woo woo, it was like my spirit guides told me to do this thing and it made no sense. And I just followed it because it felt so strong. And thank God I did because it changed my life. But there are times that you hear something and it doesn't make sense and you don't follow it. But how can you tell the difference between fear and intuition?
Yeah, I'd say experience. You need to be brave enough to just try things out and experience it for yourself because you're used to making decisions analytically. We all are. That's what's been validated. So our society has told us through all of our schooling and everything that if our mind thinks really well and we can remember things and put the pieces together the way that we were taught, then those are high scores and that's valuable and we can get a good job and make money. So
Right.
that's kind of
Right.
the basis of our learning when we're growing up. So we're used to thinking like that, that we have to analyze stuff and it has to make sense. But that's that's not really very helpful. So what's more helpful is to start having experiences. And that's why as we get older, we feel like we're getting wiser. And whether we are or not, maybe it doesn't matter, but at least it feels like that. It feels like I'm getting wiser
it definitely
because
feels like it.
because I have more experiences that I can call my own. I don't have to rely on what somebody else said, because I can say, oh, that happened to me. And, so many times I've followed my guidance. I recommend following it in little ways first, right? Don't go for like the life or death thing on your first chance, right?
Right.
So first start following it in silly ways, like, hey, I'm going to go to the restaurant. I wonder if I can sort of intuit where a good parking spot would be,
Yeah.
and just
Small
roll with that and
things.
let it be fun. It's just a game, right? The
But
more
what
you
is
do that,
intuition? What is intuition? Is
yeah,
it our
okay.
spirit guides?
Well, yes and more, right? So intuition, for this, I kind of have to dive into a little bit into my wife Hisami's work to kind of, she frames it in the best way I've seen. So she talks about it in terms of, so we've got this mind that's for this world. She calls it material mind. And that's the one we usually think about with it's doing analyzing things and, kind of putting things in boxes. This is good, this is bad. And it's necessary and super helpful when you're dealing with the material world. But we also have a spirit mind, right? And so this is the part of us that's always connected with the universe, connected with everything. So it's basically consciousness. And depending on how you're looking at it, it can feel like spirit guides, it can feel like intuition, it can feel like God, it can feel like angels, so all of this infinite space where everything's connected and coming from love, like everything kind of, there's many ways to think about it, but it's all the same thing. So we just call it spirit mind in our training.
It's just energy.
Yeah, it's just energy, but it's a different, it's energy without the thought laid on top of it.
Yeah.
Right? So it doesn't matter if you believe energy is true or not. It doesn't matter if you understand how it works. It doesn't matter if you think you have intuition or you think you don't have intuition. Those things are all irrelevant. Those will impact your belief system, but they won't actually impact your experience very much.
Right.
And that's why I say if we start going out and trying to experience things and experimenting just from a place of play and curiosity and kind of that childlike innocence that we had when we were young, all of a sudden lots of information's coming in that may not make sense according to what we learned in school, but who cares, right? We're not in school, we're living, right?
Right. Yes. Right.
The grade here has nothing to do with that. The grade in life is like, am I enjoying myself? Am I able to recover when life throws me a curveball? When something happens, when I have to find out my dog is dying, like, how do I deal with that and still feel the love? How, like for you, how do you focus on like how much you love your dog? That's the important thing, and how much you love your daughter, and like all the experience that you've had. So much love has come into your life.
Yeah.
Like that's all. That's where you want to be. You want to be swimming in that love because that's going to support you in doing this really difficult thing that you're doing. And so it's always possible to come from love.
Yeah. It's hard
But,
sometimes. And I know that, like I told you in the beginning of this podcast, it's when I had these conference calls today, and it was just normal talk about work, Jeffrey, and people were talking about work, and I wanted to punch somebody.
Yeah.
Because it's like, what did you talk about work at a time like this? But I was being human, and I have been human all day today. I've allowed myself, but it is hard to sometimes get out of your own way, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And which leads me to my next question about getting out of your own way. I'm a Capricorn from New Jersey, and I'm Cuban. So it's a trifecta of, just beating it to death until you make it and being a hustler. And I have realized in my life, to manifest what we want, it's sometimes letting go, and meaning letting go of forcing and letting the universe take the wheel. Yeah. And I know you speak about that a lot in your teachings. I think a lot of people, especially in this year, they're dealing with a lot of slowness in their work, and people aren't making the salaries that they want to make, and things aren't happening, and myself included. And I also realized that when I let go and I let the universe just take control is when things come really through. When somebody is going through it, whether they're can't find love
Mhm.
and they're on the apps and nobody's coming through, or they need work and nobody's calling,
Mhm.
how can you teach our listeners, my listeners, more about letting go during those tough times and how
Yeah.
that works?
Yeah. The thought that comes to mind, there's like so many things coming in, but the one that comes to mind is when I was in Sedona and I was just starting my healing practice. So I was a software engineer for 15 years, right? So I worked for the government and for corporate America and then I did a bunch of startups and then when the bubble burst and I kind of got burned out on that, I said, okay, I want to take this hobby that I have of energy work and healing and this, I've been studying for a long time and let's just give it a shot and see if I can make a living doing this, because that sounds a lot more fun than warming up a chair in an office in front of a computer
Yeah.
and deleting emails, which is kind of how I contextualized sitting in meetings that, people are talking about things that don't matter, which kind of made me angry. It's like you were talking about, like, these things don't matter. Why are we pretending they're important? There's life. Life is important. and so I was in Sedona and I was just starting out this business of, inviting people in to come in and do healing work with me. And at some point, and every month it was going really well. I'm pretty good with working the energy, so I could set up my calendar energetically, and it would, if I wanted 10 people a week, I could get 10 people to come in. And it was pretty easy to kind of invite people in energetically, and it worked really well there in that environment. But there was a month where it came around to like January. This was probably maybe 2006, 2007, when instead of having the 10 people a week that I was always able to have, all of a sudden I had either 0 or 1. And I was like, okay, so 0 or 1 doesn't cut it. like, like I'm okay taking a break, but my landlord's not okay with me taking a break.
Right. Right.
So the rest of, like, I have some financial responsibilities here. And so what I did was I just tuned in and I thought, okay, energy doesn't go away. What I'm doing is helpful. Like I'm getting that feedback and I'm doing my best to provide a valuable service and to help people. But somehow it's not here anymore. It's not in the place I thought it was or that I set up to make it happen. So then I just thought, well, since energy doesn't disappear, where did it go? And I asked myself that question, where are the clients? And it's like, oh, there is that one client that's been begging me to come to Texas for months and to visit at her house and to work with her family and her friends and set up some, talks and stuff. And I thought, I just never really, it didn't fit into what I thought I should be doing or what I wanted to do. And, but I'm just going to say yes. So I just looked around and I said yes to the opportunities that I've been passing up that were sort of going under the radar. And that blossomed into like a whole new branch of things. Suddenly I started traveling and teaching all over the place, which I hadn't even thought would be interesting, right?
Right.
And then, so it's the same thing with other people's business. You kind of have to just notice it's closed down here, not because I'm on my way to bankruptcy, but just enough that I will notice this isn't, like, even though this road has been really good and going down the highway, it's working, like, it's time to turn and go down a different road. So like, most of us aren't really listening. And so the way to get our attention, one way to get the attention is to like just drive the money down to 0. And then everybody's like,
Yeah.
I'm
Yes.
listening. Right? But it doesn't have to be that way, right? So if the more we listen, the more we kind of adapt in real time and sort of move things. Like another good example. So years later, I had this really good business of just doing phone sessions. People would call up and I didn't do video at all. I just wanted to listen to them. And before I would just hear their name and I'd give them like 5 minutes of the energy reading and then we'd go into their questions.
Wait,
So
hold on. What would you see during that time? What do you see when somebody just gives you their name and you don't even see them? Like, what do you feel? How could you do that over the phone?
Oh, the energy. Yeah, we talked about that in a minute. Yeah. And but I had this business. It was very easy. I spent a couple days a week or a couple days a month working on it, and I could make, I was making 6 figures doing that, and I thought this is great. But I realized there's something new I want to do, And so I actually closed that down. I stopped taking new clients. And business people said, "What? Are you crazy? Why are you shutting that down? That's making money." I said, "Because there's something else that's coming up that's even better." And I feel it, but I don't, like, if my energy is being used here, I can't also use it over here. Like, I need to change. I was shifting out of the idea that I need to be there to help each person, that somehow I'm required for people to tune into their guidance. It has to come through me. I was starting to notice, like, that's actually not sustainable, and it's not really good for anybody. It's much better if I can teach people how to tune in on their own, because your answers are within you. You don't have to drag them through me. Even though it's a
Right.
good business model, it's not even over some time. After 10 years of listening to everybody's challenges, I realized it's, there's probably more fun ways to work. I'm not in everybody's challenges every day, but I'm helping them solve them in a different way. Yeah.
Okay, so going back to, so you're on a call with someone,
Yeah.
you don't even see them. How
Yeah.
do you feel their energy?
Yeah. So, the reason I didn't do video is that right away I would get information by looking at them, even if it was subconscious. Like I can look at your video and then I'm getting an idea of who I think you might be based on my beliefs. My brain's naturally kind of pattern matching you into like the 4 people that I think you might look like, and pretending that you're like them, right?
Right.
So without that information, uh, basically what I'd see is, for me, it would just show up visually. So I'd usually start with, okay, tune into their energy. Like if I tune into your energy right now, do you want me to take a look?
Please.
Okay, yeah. So if I tune into your energy right now, so first thing I see around you is actually not the grief. I see that too, but brighter than that is behind you, this bright light that is, it's really what's driving you. Even though you're saying that it's because you're Cuban and New Jersey and so on, that there's more than that. Like those, you chose to come in at that time in this body from those parents in that location because your spirit wanted, it needed to have a strong enough kind of vessel, to achieve what you want to achieve in this life. And so that drive is actually coming from your spirit. So you don't have to feel like it's too much or something like that. It's perfect. It's perfect for what you're here to achieve as a spirit. And the grief that I see up here, it's actually, even as we're talking, it's shrinking because we're tuning into your energy. And this is an experience that you're having that's really important, but it's not you, right? You are energy or consciousness or your soul. There's so many ways to say it. And then when I look behind that, I can see that that you also have, so you have this drive that comes from your spirit, but you also have a sense that somehow you need to be like in charge, or you need to be like, uh, it's like there's people that want to help you and do help you, but it doesn't always feel good to you. You don't really want, even if somebody could give you a good big push to get you rolling, on the bike, you'd be kind of like, I don't want that. Like, I got this, I can do this. And that part's just something that you kind of learned in this life. That's the part that probably is it's you're strong, so it's true you can do things yourself, but you're also spending more energy than you'd like doing things yourself.
That's my human part, not my spirit. Of my One of my best
Yeah,
friends who lives in Boston said she booked a ticket to come. She heard me crying last night. She said,
yeah,
I booked a ticket, and I said, no, cancel it. I don't need anybody here. It's
yeah,
that's the human part of me that just
yeah,
needs to do everything on her own.
yeah. And it's interesting because those two seem at odds, but they're really not. So being a strong person, being here to help a lot of people and create and make change, and also just to heal. You're here in this life to heal some things that uh, aren't from this life, right?
Yes.
Some past experiences you've had, um, and this challenge of like letting people help you, sometimes letting people carry you, even if you could be walking, is really important. That just having that trust and that love and that support is is there, and sometimes you do it really beautifully, but it's something that's something that's a challenge for you. And so I'm looking at all this information, but you were asking like, how do I do it? So what's actually happening here, right?
Yeah. Tell me.
Yeah. So what's happening here is what I'm doing is I'm just tuning into the just the universal consciousness. So like all information is available when we go within. Like all information is available across time and space. So because that's just it's really hard to put into words because we're talking about infinite things. We're trying to squish them into finite words, right?
Right.
But the this experience of things happening linear, like moment to moment and time based, it just has to do with having a body. So it's through the lens of the body. The body is a physical object that we have, it's amazing. It slows everything down so that every experience kind of comes in this little digital, like little steps. But that isn't actually how anything that's non-physical is not working that way. So the universe doesn't really operate that way. Even when you look at quantum physics, you start to notice things like, the amount of force that would be required to keep one atom together is the same amount of force that is in the entire universe. Okay, so how does that make sense? Like, right? So, like,
Right.
it doesn't make sense to this mind that's used to dealing with, finite objects in the finite world. So I'm trying to put words around it, but the answer is like everything's available. So I'm getting a stream of information. Some of it is visual. Some of it is just knowingness and understanding. But it's all mixed together for me because I've been doing it a long time.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you have to tap into okay. In order to tap into this knowing, is there a practice that you do to tap in, or is it just come immediately?
Yeah. So for me, it's pretty easy. It's basically like if I just decide to, I can do it. Other people, like my wife Usami, this is why she's so fascinating for me, is she doesn't have an off switch. So she's never been able to turn off the sense of everything that's happening all at once. Like that's just been her experience.
It must be exhausting. It must be exhausting.
At times she said she's tried really hard to be a normal person and kind of, narrow it down and be like I just want to be a normal person. But it never lasted long. Like her natural experience is just kind of all knowingness all the time. Which sounds great, but it's not necessarily. You don't really.
I would think it would be absolutely exhausting.
Yeah, the exhausting part is that other people don't see it. Yeah.
There was a few episodes ago.
It's kind of like if you were the only person that saw color.
Right.
Or here's a better analogy. It's if you were the only person that had a sense of smell, and you went into a restaurant, everybody's like, "This food is amazing. Look how beautiful it is, and so tasty and stuff." And you're like, "That's all true, but nobody really notices that it smells like manure." And so, like, I'm having a hard time appreciating the beautiful recipe because you're missing like a fundamental thing here. But nobody else can smell. So what do you say? Right. What do you do with that? Just and then later people discover something, and it kind of comes around, years later. So
let's go back to energy really fast after talking about manures. A few episodes ago, I told my listeners about doing psilocybin, and I did it with a therapist, and it was years ago, and I had an experience where I saw energy. For the first time in my human body, I saw energy in my house, I saw energy in myself, and I understood it in like a quantum physics sort of way. And I don't necessarily think that you need to go through that journey to feel it or to understand it. And I know that is the foundation of which you teach, is just energy.
Yeah.
And I got to experience it and see it on a different dimension, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, totally makes sense. Yeah.
Everything is energy. We all hear that. It's science. It's not woo-woo. We get it. You've heard it a million times. And I think it's really hard in the world that we live in, especially being connected to our phones and we're constantly looking down. We're never looking at the sunset or the waterfalls or the stars or anything. How can somebody incorporate the love of the energy that the earth is always giving to us on a daily basis without having to do something so drastic, if that makes any sense?
Yeah. So it's actually not too hard. So I think we do it naturally all the time. If you go outside and go for a walk in nature, like what happens there is the input, all the extra stuff that's kind of man-made, starts kind of fading away. If we go on vacation for a week and we kind of hang out on a beach, catch up on our sleep, by the end of the week, we feel really in tune. We have clarity on what we want to do from the inside. And it's not because we became more intuitive during that week or during that walk in the park. It's because we turned down the noise. Right? And so I haven't met anybody yet, and I've met a lot of people, but I haven't met anybody that doesn't have intuition. I've met anybody that can't do healing work or can't channel energy or information. But almost everybody is overwhelmed with noise. Right? And so the trick is to just find a little bit of time to turn down the noise or learn some techniques. That's what I teach in my duality program at Mind Valley. Is I teach some techniques for being in the world but still having your space. So how do I be in a meeting? There's all this information going on, but I'm still able to have my own space, so I can experience the reality around me. And I don't have to isolate or go into meditation or close my eyes or anything. I can be just in the moment anywhere and still feel like I have my space, still start like tuning in more here and having this joy and fun and love experience, even in the like, even though I'm out here in the world, like in a meeting or driving my car or subway or something
Whatever
like
it
that.
is. I have two stories I want to share with you. I went to a retreat last year, and it was 7 days without your phone, no books, nothing. It was horrible and awesome at the same time. And what I tapped into my intuition. So many things changed in my life, and I think a lot of people who were there were like, "Oh, this retreat changed my life." It's like, no, actually, the retreat had nothing to do with it. What the most powerful thing about that retreat was that we had to just be within and listen to our intuition. And when I did that psilocybin journey years ago, one of the biggest downloads that I got was, we're so busy being on our phone, we're looking down, that there's so much noise. It's so much noise around us that we can't just tap in. We've lost the ability to just really tap into the human that we were supposed to be. We're now, I don't want to say the word robots, but we're turning into it because we're constantly we're looking down on these phones and thinking that this is a connection. And I'm using my hand as my phone, but this is not connection. Connection happens when you are here. Does that, are you following what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's true. I mean, the devices are distracting for sure. There's one thing that I've noticed that so we're all a little bit overwhelmed with the amount of information that's coming in, right? And so one thing to do when you're overwhelmed is to put a little bit more on, kind of get a little noise to drown out the noise, right? And so like I'll do that if I'm just like, my brain, I've been working too hard this week, my brain is just fried. I'll just go home, and that's the night that I'll like watch 3 episodes on Netflix or something back to back, because it's like I can't stop my brain right now, but maybe I can put something in, it'll disrupt the signal.
Yeah.
So that's what we do. It's not necessarily healthy, but in some levels it works, right?
Yeah.
But you want to also be able to follow that with, okay, now I disrupted that signal. Now I need to connect with my signal, right? I need to come back to me. And oddly, the people that are strongest or most connected with their intuition are the people that oftentimes feel like they're not, like that it's the furthest thing away. Because if you're sensitive to information, but you don't really know how to manage your boundaries energetically, then a lot of stuff's coming in. A lot of other people's information is cycling through you. Like your friends are information cycle through your family, what you saw on TV, the movie you watched last night, all that information is coming through you because you're really sensitive. You're great at connection. You're like, kind of hyper connected. And so people like this are very empathic. I'm like this. I get lost very easily. It's hard to remember who I am when I'm everybody. Right. And so just being able to have the sense that okay, maybe it's not that my intuition is broken. Maybe that it's just on at 11 all the time. Right. My intuition goes to 11. And so when you realize that, you're like, oh, okay, got it. So maybe I need to turn down a little bit my sensitivity to everybody else.
Yeah.
And I can do that by just asking myself the question, is what I'm feeling right now, is this mine or not mine?
Is what I'm feeling right now, is this mine or not mine?
Yeah, so that's a really great question for empathic people.
Great question, Jeffrey. That is a great question.
And don't think about it. Just whatever answer comes to mind, go with that one. Especially if it doesn't make sense, right?
Is what I'm feeling right now, is it mine or it is so powerful, just that sentence or a question, because I'm the retreat that I was telling you about. I was in a room where it was an exercise of beating a pillow with a bat.
Yeah.
And people were really upset. Of course, it was like things were coming out, and I couldn't be in that room anymore because I felt everyone else's pain. I wasn't even dealing. I couldn't even be in my own body dealing with my own childhood pain because I was feeling everybody else's.
Yeah.
And I think there are a lot of people probably listening to this now that can understand what I'm talking about, because I feel like, especially women, we hold on to so much and we feel responsible for everyone else's pain and fixing it. And just asking that question, is what I'm feeling right now, is it mine?
Yeah, it's really an eye opener, because once you start asking that, and then and feeling into it, and then just remembering that, okay, I'm here to work on my stuff. That's actually what I'm responsible for, is me. And I can't take responsibility for other people. Even if it was possible, which it's not, it wouldn't be helpful, because I'd be taking away the things that they came here to work.
Right.
And so when I realize that, I can start to sort it out and say, okay, is this thing mine or not mine? Not is it important, or not would I be a good person, or would people respect me or pay me more if I did it, but is it actually mine or not? and then you say, oh, if it's mine, then I want to tune in and work on it and kind of find a way to bring love into the situation so that it can heal and change and so on. But if it's not mine, the best response is to dissociate from it, which, if you're a self-help junkie, you might think that's called copping out.
Yes,
Now,
that's what I was going to say.
Actually yours, if it was yours, that would be copping out. But if it's not yours, that's appropriate. That's to say, that's actually not mine. So I'm just going to give that back. I'm just going to let that one go.
All the codependents out there are screeching.
Yeah, it's just I hear you. I understand how important that is for you, but that's not mine.
Yeah.
And I have to focus on my thing, and hopefully that'll help you get clarity that that's your thing. And if you think it's not your thing, well, then that's okay too. You don't have to do it either, but it's certainly not mine.
Right.
And so this, once you start getting this idea, I can give myself permission to not do everything for everybody. Whoa, mind blown, right?
I don't even know what that feels like.
Yeah.
What am I going to do with my day?
Yeah, things get a lot bigger, and suddenly you have all the energy that you need to deal with the things that are yours. Because there's nothing comes to you that's beyond your ability to handle. But if you're doing all this other stuff, then it'll feel like it.
Before you go, what are your daily practices as an energy healer, as somebody who taps into this on a daily basis and on a minute-to-minute basis? Do you meditate every day? Do you journal? What's your day look like?
Yeah, I wish I could say that I had a healthy, regular practice. but I would say, because I've done that, there were years where every morning I meditated. I got up, a glass of water, maybe used the bathroom, and then boom, meditation, nothing else till I've done meditation. And I had a particular meditation that I love to do, where I talk to different guides, tune in certain ways, and And it was great. So if you're feeling drawn to a practice like that every day, definitely go for it. It's like super helpful if you're feeling drawn to it. Uh, if you're feeling like you have to do it or there's something wrong with you, okay, then that's a clue that maybe that's not the right practice for you right now. But you always give yourself permission to listen to what's coming inside, right? And so my daily practice right now is more in the moment. It's what needs to happen today. Like today I woke up and I still feel this energy. I'm like, oh, last night Isami was trying to help me with something, but because I was on the edge of sleep and I was tired, I kind of misunderstood, and it was like, wow, and and then we went to sleep and I woke up. I was like, oh, okay, I don't want to let that energy lie. I want to like work on that, even though I supposedly don't have time this morning, right? I've got to go to work and I've got an interview and on this podcast and everything. I thought, oh, what's important to me right now is this little thing that's not even a big thing. I just want to like sit, with my wife Isami and talk a little bit and enjoy each other's company and sort of like, and just kind of explore like, oh, what happened last night when I sort of like, something,
Yeah.
and
You're
then
being
and we
human.
can kind of, bring a little love to that situation. And that's my daily practice. Like, what do I actually need to do right now? Not what should I do,
Yeah.
or what do I have to do? What's on my to-do list?
Tapping
Those
in.
things are all interesting, but they can't take the front seat, right?
Right.
The front seat needs to be what's happening in this moment, and what's, if I've made a little mess, clean it up. If 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 I'm really tired, maybe I need
Physically
to
or
take,
metaphorically.
yeah, maybe I need to take a little break if I'm tired. If I have some extra energy, I'm inspired to work on a project that is totally low priority, maybe that's totally okay.
Yeah.
Because the inspiration's coming in right now to work on it. That's I'm going to be able to get it done really quick, and it's going to turn out perfect. If I just put it on the to-do list and wait till I'm supposed to work on it, probably I won't remember what the inspiration was.
Right.
Yeah, so it's that being present in this moment is, I guess, is the practice that I'm in now. And when I do that, there isn't much room for ritual.
Right. You
Like
don't need a ritual. The
yeah,
ritual is now.
but the ritual is super helpful if you're feeling overwhelmed. Like if you're living off of your calendar and you're planning this, then put some things in that place. Whatever it is that you're letting control your life, put some things in there that help turn you in a different direction.
Yeah.
Take
You know
control over
what's
the
so funny you
controller.
say that.
Yep.
I've always been a person of having a morning routine, and I'll tell you again back to my dog, but my Olivia's dad and I still get along really well, and um I dropped off my dog so he can spend some time with her last night. Uh, and I I dropped off my daughter too because it was his night with her. And when I pulled away, Jeffrey, I started screaming like a crazy person in the car, like this guttural, like screaming of sadness. And of course, that's not my routine, but it is what was needed at that time. Is what my body was craving, was just release because I was
Yeah.
holding it in for so
Yeah.
long. And what you're saying is right. And I think that this is the first time I've realized that you don't need to have a routine. You just have to listen to your gut no matter how, whatever it is. Like sometimes you're going to want to scream. Sometimes you're going to want to journal. Sometimes you're not
Yeah.
going to want to. Like, and that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's funny because at first it feels a little bit like we're crazy people. If we start just doing whatever we need to in the
Craze.
moment,
Yeah.
yeah, it seems a little impulsive and crazy. But over time, you start to realize, oh, this is actually I'm taking care of myself, and
Right.
things stop building to the level where it looks like crazy on the
Like
outside.
really crazy. Like when I'm at the
It
grocery store
starts
and I
looking
would be
really
doing that.
calm. It's like
Yeah.
over a little time, it's like, oh, now it looks like I'm actually calm all the time. And when things
Yes.
blow up, it's like they recover quickly. It doesn't blow up as far. And it's like because I'm here, I'm present in the moment, I'm doing this, and but it takes a long time. At least it's taken a long time for me, and I still deal with this. Is part of me still believes that I should be doing all the things on my checklist. That like the 10 things that I committed to, I need to do.
Yeah.
But the reality is, most of us are so creative that there's no way I could execute on all the ideas I have. Just this, the more tuned in you are, the more opportunity you see. to help people and do great things. It's okay that you can't accomplish all of that.
Yeah.
Just pick the ones the ones that are coming at you right now that you want to work on. Like that's a good sign. That's called intuition too, right? That's in the flow, right? That's happening
In the
right now.
flow.
And but it takes a little while because somehow we have this idea that it's supposed to look differently, or we're supposed to be more consistent, or there's a formula that worked for everybody else that we should follow.
Yeah, because well, I feel like we are born pure. As children, we feel the intuition, and then little by little, people put blankets of us of BS. And like now it's like I feel like in my 40s, I'm just taking all those blankets off to get back to my pureness that I had as a child.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah,
thank you for teaching so many people how to do that. And I thank you so much for your time today. I could have talked to you for another 4 hours, but I also respect your time. So thank you so much, Jeffrey. I really appreciate you. And anybody who's listening to this on the notes, I will have his courses, his Instagram, his website, how you can get in touch with him, because his work is phenomenal.
Great. Yeah, thank you so much. It's my pleasure.
Thank you, Jeffrey.